Hello everyone. Let's talk conscription, the draft, the national service. Are they all synonymous with each other? Well, let's find out. So Sunak and his government banding about all of our boys and girls, and depending on your belief system, everything in between. 18 upwards. Well, that's kind of how it started during the First and the Second World War, when conscription was phased in. During the early times when there was all the unsettled manoeuvres, let's say, in Europe at the time, and then conscription started. And the degrees of which the requirements for conscription changed as everybody died, and they needed more, so therefore people's jobs became less important. So yeah, you can join. Even by the end, they even wanted the clergy, who were protected all the way through, to join. It never happened. But as far as the government was concerned, they needed everybody to join up, because, as we all know, they were dying in droves. So, what's happening now? Well, back in January, and this is a report from Sky News, was conscription likely to come back? This is all through the tensions between Russia and Ukraine. All that's happening over there, okay? I'm not going to go into the politics of Russia and Ukraine. Do that yourself. It's a very interesting journey, let's say. So, military experts were split whether conscription is a realistic prospect in the 21st century Britain. So, a military analyst, Professor Michael Clark, told Sky News that the UK would probably have to go back to having a citizen army. A citizen army is a non-professional army. When I say professional, I mean people who are trained to fight, who volunteered to go in because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to be part of the fighting force, and they trained, and they're specialists in fighting, warfare, and military manoeuvres, etc. A civilian army, well, it will be you and me going in. Here's a gun. There's the enemy. Pull the trigger. So, England has never had, well, almost never had conscription, like I said, during its 360-year history, apparently. And he said it's because basically the ethics of it were wrong. You know, who am I to tell you to go and fight for what I believe you should fight? That's basically it in a nutshell. So he was not a fan of the idea, and he said conscription to most professional soldiers, and he counted himself as one, said is an absolute anathema, a curse. So conscription would be a curse. Think about that. That's a strong word. But he goes on to global tensions and the defence funding cuts since the Cold War. Why did we cut them since the Cold War? Because the threat had gone down. Makes sense, okay. Said maybe it may be time to get over many of our cultural hang-ups and assumptions and look carefully at conscription. Because sooner or later, if the military can't improve the way they recruit, if it comes to conflict, well, obviously, they'll have to look at other methods. Up until recently, even in January, they were saying any talk of the UK introducing conscription if NATO go to war with Russia is nonsense. This is from the Armed Forces Minister, James, I think it's pronounced Hape, or Hepe, something like that. I haven't heard of him. I'm not particularly a political person, but maybe I will be from now on. And he says that the UK long have had plans ready for mobilising volunteers in the event Britain enters a new conflict. Britain entering a conflict. Well, that's anything they decide is a conflict that Britain enters. That's not Russian boots storming our beaches coming up and then we haven't decided maybe we need to protect our borders. No, this is about whatever they decide a conflict is. And like many carousel speeches, number 10 have had back in January, ruled out the suggestion of conscription, saying no plans, no plans. We're proud of our traditional voluntary force. Yes, because back in the First World War, 750,000 men volunteered to join the British Army in just 8 weeks. And how many survived? So what's the difference between conscription and national service? Well, national service is the standard peacetime form of conscription. So national service would be, the law says you must do one of two things. Join the military or part of the social fabric services. The Coast Guard, Sunak says, search and rescue, feed the poor and homeless people, but you have to do something. So they give you the illusion of choice by saying, here's choice. It's not a free choice. Free choice is saying, do what you want, and that includes not doing. This illusion of choices, we're going to give you the choices of which we don't care what the outcome is, because either one you're going to do and we will be happy with either choice. So here, do you want strawberry or apple? You've only got those to choose from. Oh, but I want peach. No, peach isn't an option. You must take one of these two. But I don't like either of those options. Then eat one. Eat them both, is what they're saying. So be careful when they say you have a choice. It's like, oh, okay, we have a choice. Thank you for the choice. No, you're still imposing my choices by force. People who refuse conscription on moral grounds are referred to as conscientious objectors. They may object to fighting for political, religious, or whatever reason. It's your reason. And back in the First and Second World War, any conscientious objectors had to go to court, to a tribunal, to argue their case of not wanting to stare down the barrel of the enemy rifles. They had to argue that they didn't want to face death. Okay. I can hear some of you saying, yeah, but the times were different then. Yes, the times were different then. The times were different then. Think about that. So, the current news. Sunak, Rishi, says when a young man asked him, only last few days, the young man said to him, and it was videoed, I saw this on the internet, so it must be true. A young man asks Rishi, why do you hate young people so much? You're making us join the army. Rishi replies in, I would say, a belittling, loud, condescending manner. No, you'll have a choice. The young man replies, why do I have to? I've volunteered all my life. Sunak, then you'll love it. Then you'll love it, he repeats. But why do I have to do it again when I'm finally coming out of education? Sunak, oh, I wouldn't view it like that. Oh, tell me, how should I view it? Take my own critique out and impose me your views, Rishi. It's a culture of service. It's a good thing for our country. And you will have a choice. Yeah, well, we've gone over that. Is this a predetermined selection again? Threat of jail or other sanctions is what we've been told. Now, Sweden currently are putting people in prison. Over the last 5-6 years, they've been putting people, conscientious objectors, in prison, because Sweden have a national service programme, of which Rishi was very proud to say 80% of the people who was polled, now we don't know who those people were polled were, how long had they been in, what age were they when they were polled, what rank did they hold. 80% of them would recommend it to their friends. Okay, well, that's Sweden. They have a very different sense of national identity. Maybe that may have something to do with it. Maybe they have a sense of pride in their country. Something our Rishi is very keen to promote with national service. Now, just bear in mind, our Rishi has a personal wealth of, or let me just start by what it rose to this year, this financial year. Bearing in mind, he paid, bless him, over 500,000 in tax. He paid over 500,000 in tax. With his tax accountants allowed him to pay 500,000. How much did he earn in 1 year? I'll tell you. Only 122 million in 1 year. He's our political lead. And he's earned 122 million.